The coolest part about collecting physical media is that you can always go back to that nostalgia high. Hello, recently I noticed how terrible streaming has become, not only with subscription prices that suck major private piles, or media that you bought vanishing off of platforms, but also the quality control behind these sources of entertainment. This does apply to journalism, book nerd, gaming, and music atmosphere as well, which I will get more into later in this video. So I came from the era where physical media and digital media were starting to mate with one another. Netflix still had movies you could get in the mail, Blockbuster or Hollywood Video had not gone bankrupt yet, and the world still had stores like Hastings, all while platforms like Hulu were on the rise. Over time, we became comfortable with convenience under subscription models, which caused the current landscape of lost art. We didn't think anything of it at the time, and any skepticism about physical media dying was chopped up to some cracked out conspiracy theorists trying to sell snake oil. In recent time, my biggest issue with digital media hasn't just been because Sony decided to take the world into the Stone Ages, losing what control consumers had. Boo! You suck! Imagine you spend $1,500 for that sweet, crisp picture of an OLED, you drag it home, waste hours setting it up to your standards, and you get picture quality like this. Like, what the fuck is this? I just spent $1,500! And even though the streaming platform clearly states that it's in 4K, it still looks like I'm watching Grey's Anatomy on a Game Boy. This was something that I came across recently after fidgeting with my mid-tier TV for 3 years now, which has annoyed the living hell out of me. So I decided to set out on collecting the films I either grew up on or became a replay fan of on streaming platforms, just to test the theory that maybe it was Netflix or Hulu that had the problem. I don't know why we're in this age where streaming is gaslighting me into believing that I'm the problem whenever it's the problem. Now, keep in mind, purchasing physical copies has become cheaper, but so has the process of getting your favorite film on disc. You can see this in a lot of DVD copies today, as picture quality has actually downgraded from what you could pick up in the 2000s. But within this theory of collecting physical media, I discovered I wasn't getting the picture I was paying a subscription for. I noticed that scenes were more vibrant and lifelike when I played the disc version over the digital. But with physical media, you can also get behind the scenes material that just won't be possible on streaming platforms. So what makes this theory fact? You see, over time, as more people have jumped to convenience, it has led to a downgrade of quality because so many people are trying to consume the same content you want to consume. Basically, the movies and shows that you are watching are put onto a server that allows you access with that subscription fee. If more people are watching that episode of Grey's Anatomy, more resources are taken from the server, creating a quality issue for some users on these platforms like Netflix and Hulu. And no, I'm not making everyone the bad guy for choosing convenience, as this is more on the business narrative of trying to squeeze every dollar out of someone without proper upgrades and maintenance. We see this when Netflix hosts live events and you're stuck watching a loading wheel because they can't get their act right. But this quality issue wasn't the only reason why I started collecting physical media again, as some films, games, and music that are now nostalgia for me have never made it to a digital platform. Take racing games like Test Drive Unlimited and Test Drive Unlimited 2 that are lost to time without a physical copy or downloading a free pirated version. And what about movies like Lowriders, which doesn't have top levels of acting but is really hard to find new in physical form and only offers a digital version for damn near 15 bucks that could be taken out back because platforms are secretly removing films that us consumers purchase. His hands caressed my thigh as he went up to touch. Wait, stop. I can't read this on YouTube, so let's talk about books now. Going back to platforms removing media, in the process of creating this video, I stumbled across a memory when Kindle had deleted a controversial book which created some concern for physical and digital at the end of the 2000s. I remember how crucial that was because of the topic, but digging into this further, some Kindle devices that are outdated would lose access to features, and if this outdated device was ever reset or broken with time, it would be difficult to get back what was there. Now, luckily they offer like transfer options and everything, but still, you purchased the book, you should be able to read the book anytime, anywhere, any device. Books have become so mainstream with convenience that maybe we should actually see what's on the shelves to buy. Oh, there's nothing there. This is almost like buying movies and music now. Channels like Swell Entertainment go more in depth about this book issue, so I will leave a link to her video in the description, but this leaves concern because we don't know how long we own the digital versions we purchase, and this is due to platforms like Kindle removing content either because of licensing issues, server costs, or even because they don't want you to read a certain thing. This leads me to, it is now more important than ever to collect as much physical media as possible because of the way everything is shifting, especially with corporations like Sony making the call that physical is out and digital is so in. I don't know how much more wrong you could be, and the cost of making physical copies is not as expensive as they portray it to be. I just want physical copies out there. Realistically, who's to say what will be lost to time, because a lot of the media that we consumed as kids that are nostalgia pieces now are really just fading out from existence and disappearing altogether. Even books from like the 1900s are also gone. They may have preserved it on platforms like Amazon Kindle, but realistically, will it be gone in the next 10 years or so? Collecting physical media can be very hard to do because some platforms like Netflix have created a franchise that can only be consumed through streaming. But there is a little secret that I will share. Jumping back to Sony or just the gaming industry for a second, gaming has been in shambles for the past decade at this point, and we have all played a role in what is happening, but to lose access of showing next generations the art of games like Tony Hawk Proving Ground and how each developer put their heart and souls into creating a world for someone that didn't quite fit in is heartbreaking. We want these art forms to show a piece of history, and digital is stripping that away. Whoa, things are getting way too serious, way too fast. Let's stop and pump the brakes. It's time to get those slow jams going and talk about music. Music itself can be a little controversial because as it went digital, it gave audiences a way to discover the world. We were no longer locked into a region, which is why platforms like Napster and LimeWire were such a big deal in the early 2000s because everybody wanted that money. Money became an issue for consumers. Money became an issue for artists, and money became an issue for labels. Those awful labels. I create music myself and see very little revenue in the digital atmosphere because platforms like DistroKid take a large cut of what I make. But as you can see what I am holding, this came from my collection of CDs that I've had since I was a kid. The coolest part about this is that I will have it forever and be able to show other generations what the 2000s was all about, especially with devices like this. You can see the disc spinning and all that, but it was this thing right here. The coolest part about physical media is the artwork and how much time it took to design. Behind the cover art, you could learn about the band and how each song was crafted, or you could read tips and tricks on a certain video game. This is a part of media that you just don't get in today's time. Now, remember how I mentioned that there is a secret? On some capture card devices, you are able to record or pirate media that could be lost to time, but you have to opt into less expensive devices of today. This sort of thing has been going on for ages, and a lot of older generations still have recordings of media on VHS tapes or cassettes. Even on some browsers, you can bypass assets so you can record your favorite show only to store it on things like this hard drive. I'm not going to showcase a step-by-step process on how to do this, but the the information is easily searchable and it's out there on the internet. So I have been collecting physical media for some time now. It has been great. It has been fun. And it's so interesting to kind of look back on how things were made back in certain time periods. A lot of the films that I'm picking up are from the 2000s, and it's great to see behind the scenes material that hasn't really been like put on the internet all too much. I think a lot of people tend to forget the behind the scenes material, and it's great to just kind of refresh your mind on how things were actually made back then. There's also like little snippet interviews with the cast and crew on how things were made, and that's just something that you don't get in today's climate of digital. However, as I grew up, streaming became the norm, so I tossed out all of this nostalgia, not realizing how important it was. I think a lot of people have done this. You see it at garage sales, you see it on secondhand stores, and just like me, people are realizing the state we are in and how important it is to have physical media. The last thing I need to touch on is journalism. My channel requires me to research and read articles of the past, and over time it has become harder to find information on whatever topic I have cooked up because I either get hit with the article no longer exists from its main platforms, or I get bits and pieces from unreliable sources like Reddit. And so it's always great to look up articles from whatever time period you are searching into. And it's also great to get multiple sources. Don't just get things off of Reddit and trust what's out there. So I never thought I would be saying this, but I think newspapers are important too, because you could endlessly make copies and keep it forever of whatever time period or catastrophe that happened. Like, take some of the movements that happened in the mid to late 1900s, and like that's becoming lost media. So we really need to keep that in line, or keep it forever, almost like movies, music, and games. I started collecting physical media like this casino game, which is definitely not on Steam or Game Pass. What are you doing to keep physical media alive? Are you collecting like I am because you want to relive nostalgia, or is digital just better for you?